My name is Jessie Vernon. I am with Code Virginia as well as the Institute for Advanced Learning and Research in Danville, Virginia. And today's webinar focuses on the computer science roadmaps for districts. There is a link in the group chat window to the session links that appears on this first slide if you'd like kind of quick access. These session links are a great resource both for you all, but also if you kind of wish to share some information about today's webinar with people who aren't able to participate. It'll include, after we finish the webinar, the slides from this deck, as well as a video recording of today's webinar, the chat history, should we have any questions. And please feel free to post questions as we go through the webinar. You don't have to wait till the end if things pop into your head. It gives a little bit about kind of the general context of how the computer science roadmaps project got started, as well as links to the CSSOLs and the webinar that ran in January on decoding the computer science SOLs. So Code Virginia, for those of you who are just kind of joining some of the group's activities, is a statewide nonprofit that works to bring computer science education to all of Virginia through PD and district resources. Today I'm going to go over what the roadmap project goals are, a brief overview, kind of a how does this work, how cohorts, kind of from getting started through completion of the roadmap process, the phases of data collection, what you get back, and kind of next steps should you want to get involved with the roadmap process. The goal of the computer science roadmaps is to help school divisions across Virginia prepare for the new computer science SOLs. Essentially, we want to create a resource for those school division representatives who've kind of been tasked with like making this happen. An overview of the project is essentially CodeVA staff works interactively with a representative or representatives from the school division to talk about your internal assets, identify free tools and resources, and make recommendations for the school division about professional development, how to implement some of the curriculum you might be interested in, and making sure that the new CSSOLs are met. How does it work? A school division representative or representatives applies to join a cohort, and the reason I made that plural is kind of depending on your school district. It may be an individual who is kind of spearheading the initiative to get the CSSOLs integrated for elementary or to add those electives in middle and high school, or it may be a team, and you're welcome to have just one individual provide the information for the roadmap process, but you're certainly welcome to share that login information internally and divvy out kind of the data collection piece. And that may work better for some of you who may not have access to all of the information that we're requesting. Once you kind of apply to join a cohort, we'll share some information about the next available cohort group. When your cohort is scheduled to begin, you receive course sites login information. You provide some details about your school district through the course sites platform. We divide that data collection up into 3 different phases. We then take the information that you provide, clarify any details, talk to you about what your school division's goals are, and then we deliver a customized computer science roadmap for the district. We're currently working on our first cohort, kind of the guinea pig group. Our goal is to start cohort 2 in the next 2 to 3 weeks, and then we'll continually add on new cohorts on a rolling basis moving forward. We're hoping to kind of streamline the process so that we can produce the roadmap in like a 5 to 6 week time frame. And now a lot of that is going to depend on how quickly, right, you as a school district would be able to provide the information that's requested on the front end. The phases of data collection are gathering information, which includes student demographic data, district personnel data, student scheduling data. That's followed by a description of your internal processes. So kind of taking a look at curriculum information, personnel information, and professional development. The third phase is identifying assets. So we take a look at infrastructure, primarily technology, professional development details, and curriculum details. So again, this is kind of a good spot to look at how many people may need to have access to your course site's login information so that you can readily supply the information. It's really up to participating individuals on whether they want to collect information kind of via email and input that back to us and kind of play that filter or middleman, as it were. Or if you say, okay, there's a curriculum information piece. I know that Susie is our curriculum person. She should just fill out all the questions regarding to curriculum. So there's really no preference on our end. That's totally up to your school division's kind of preferences. What do we get back? So the goal of the roadmap is to help school divisions plan professional development, kind of assess your current technology capabilities, and choose new curriculum and resources. The roadmap is basically a detailed report with a summary of kind of the information that you shared with us, what the school district has expressed its goals are in terms of CS education. We'll provide a recommended timeline for implementation, some suggestions about technology purchasing, professional development, roles of ITRTs at kind of each academic level, elementary, middle, and high school, as well as kind of one-pagers that are easy to distribute to teachers, your tech staff. The goal is to kind of make this information as readily accessible for the folks in your school division as possible. So you certainly have the full roadmap to share with folks as you wish, but we'll also make some quick reference sheets that will be kind of easy access for those that may not need the entire roadmap as a reference. If you're interested in joining a roadmap cohort, the link will be provided in the slides that will be linked to that sessions link address in the group chat window at the end of this presentation. And we'll give you information about the next cohort. And then again, once that cohort gets started, you'll have your information. And we sort of hit the ground running. It is a collaborative process, so we certainly aren't making these recommendations and creating these roadmaps without the assistance of the school division. The goal is to have each one be customized to your individual district and with your goals and your situation in mind. And I clearly talked exceptionally fast, but I'm happy to answer any questions that everybody has. I think everybody has the ability to unmute themselves, so please feel free to ask questions or type them into the chat window.
And Jesse, I don't know if I didn't hear whether you covered this, but there's a link in the chat window at the very top that has a document where I'll capture any notes, but that's also something that people can use to get to another video link for the SOLs that a lot of people have asked about.
Yes. The fastest, most complete webinar of all time. No.
Kathy, I see your question about confirming. I will look at that and get back to you. I need to make sure that I have access to even see that information, but I will confirm. I'll make a note to confirm with you either way.
Good question on how long the cohorts last. So right now, our first cohort has bared with us through the actual creation of our data collection questions, and so they've been with us for a couple months. Again, I mentioned in the slides that our goal is to have the cohort process last, again, kind of that approximately 6-week time period. And so what we may end up doing is kind of setting for ourselves and for participants, okay, we hope to have the gathering information phase done by X date. The describing internal processes has to be done by this time, just because it is such a collaborative process, and each school division is going to vary, that, we'll need your feedback before we can really complete the written portion of that process. But the goal is approximately 6 weeks. Any other pressing questions? So Matthew's question, will this tie into the curriculum guides coming later? So the computer science roadmap questions or roadmap project is meant to be sort of separate from the curriculum guides. This is going to be more of an overview, sort of bird's eye view of the school district's technology, curriculum scaffolding, and professional development. So this won't be as kind of nitty gritty or kind of to the level of like a scope and sequence. Does that answer your question, Matthew? Is the data collection piece available to view yet? So the questions are all kind of written. I just need to talk to Rebecca on whether those are going to be available kind of publicly before participating in a cohort. I would think that that wouldn't be complicated to accomplish, but that would be something that I'll have to check with. Dan, that's a great question. So part of our wrap up with each participating school district is going to be how much information they're willing for us to share. So we would love, if the school district says, hey, I am happy for other school divisions to see our roadmap. You can share it in its entirety. But we know that some school divisions may not wish to do that. And so we're going to respect, kind of the wishes and privacy of each participating school division. So we certainly hope that some of our first cohort would be willing to kind of share their experience and or share their final roadmap. But that's just going to vary on what they decide to do at that final stage. Any other questions? These have been awesome. So CodeVA is the primary writer and collaborator on this project. So the school division, representatives that supply the data and are kind of, I guess, either the person volunteers or is maybe voluntold to take part in the roadmap process. I know sometimes that works differently in different school divisions. They're obviously a collaborator on the project and are going to speak kind of for their individual school division. And then kind of the resources and training recommendations and those things are going to be coming from the Code Virginia staff. I think now would be a good time too to touch base. Just it is recommendations. So the goal is that this would be a good document to take to central office folks, directors of technology, or school board PTA. To kind of discuss those goals that you help us, CodeVA, identify as being important. So sometimes it helps to have kind of an expert in the field, which CodeVA certainly is, provide kind of their recommendation or 2 cents to some stakeholders in your school division. So our goal is to be kind of a champion for you in helping to reach your CS goals over the next several years. So this is a great question. With the cohort, we currently are working with what levels of administration so far have decided to get involved. The cohort that we currently have, it's generally been someone who's either involved with STEM education or the technology department of the school division. And they have then either gone and spoken to the curriculum specialists or administrators that have kind of the pieces of information they need for the data collection process. There's also one member of our cohort who does actually have a computer science SOL committee, and that committee includes some teachers and building level principals and those things. But primarily so far, there's kind of been a champion, so to speak, that's gathered the information for the roadmap process. So how much expertise is important to have with CS in order to make effective decisions outside of gathering data? Because the computer science district roadmap is really looking at divisional assets to sort of help implement those computer science SOLs, I'd say that a good grasp and understanding of your division's kind of practices and procedures surrounding professional development, as well as kind of new curriculum adoption is very helpful. But I certainly wouldn't say that the person involved in this process has to be, you know, a computer science educator, say, or someone who's read through every computer science SOL. Does that help answer the question? Any other questions? I know as educators, you guys don't actually quit at like 5, but we could pretend that, right, we work in a world where things end at 5 today and maybe wrap things up before that time. Well, I have been working with Rebecca Dovey on the computer science district roadmap process. So when you all fill out an interest form or an application to participate in a cohort, I certainly see that information. If you have a question that pops into your head later tonight or in the coming days, you talk to some folks in your district and they have questions that we didn't address with this webinar, please feel free to contact me. I'm going to put my contact information in the chat window, and just feel free to reach out at any time. Thank you all for attending the webinar. As I mentioned, we'll update that session links document, and that'll include the slides from today, the video, as well as some other resources, including that Decoding the CSSOLs webinar, which ran in January, that a lot of folks have requested.
All right. Thank you, everybody. I think I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting, and then we'll have this posted probably in the next 24 hours and updating the document with the items that were put into chat. So that way everyone can refer to those later on.